Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Once Upon a Time with Rinpoche. And today we'll be going into Dorje Shugden's Divination. And before we go do that, we'll check out, I will check out whether I'm online. So just give me a moment. Let me see. Well, I don't think anybody is online so fast, right? So, okay, I am online. I can see myself. All right, and okay, I can see Mr. Lam, Melvin, good evening. So today we'll be talking about Dorje Shugden's Divination. And before we do that, we will go into, let's talk a little bit about what divination is. All right, just to be, so that you are clear. Dorje Shugden's divination here, divination actually in general is not something that's Tibetan. It's not. It is in many cultures and in many belief systems, they have a way of to divine the future. So divination is to divine the future. It's basically contacting a divine source to ask about the future, to find out things about the future. All right. So, I mean, in the past, there are many methods of divination. The most common one is, of course, through oracles. That's why actually this topic is actually related to the Dorje Shugden oracle. But we're not going to talk about divination in terms of consulting an oracle this time. Today, what we're going to talk about is actually dice divination. And in the Tibetan tradition, is a very rich tradition of divination, where there's many methods because of a very developed spiritual tradition in Tibet. So there are many ways of divination. There are divination dice, mo, which is what we're going to talk about today. There is divination by through looking in the mirror. There's divination using a mala, the prayer beads, the Buddhist prayer beads. And then there's divination by consulting an oracle. There's divination by what do you call this? Robes, or rather, actually cloth divination. They say, but what Rinpoche described in the monastery is that some monks who can do this divination, they use their robes, their zen, and then divination by many. I mean, there's also calculation, there's also numerology, and etc. etc. All right, so I can see more people have come on. I can see Marcus, Kanun, and Nugroho, Sihananto. Good evening. So there are many divinations because why is divination such a big thing in all cultures, in many spiritual traditions? It's because the world that we live in is very uncertain. There's a lot of problems, there's a lot of issues that sometimes we cannot use our logical conclusions to come to a solution. Sometimes we don't know because the possibilities are endless, in that sense. I mean, in the sense that perhaps it's something we need to find out the parameters. We need to find out if this is going to be a good endeavor. Sometimes, more importantly, it could mean life and death. So divination is very important, especially in olden times, where for simple things like traveling, for simple things like movement, where you live, doctors, medicine, stuff like that. So, but in Buddhism, according to Tsem Rinpoche, divination is an integral and important part, but it's not something to be abused and used. Like whenever you feel like it, like we lost the car keys, we want to find, so we will consult divination. No, we don't do things like that. Rinpoche said that divination should be used for something very important, something that we cannot use our that we cannot that is important enough, that is a big thing, that is of big consequence, that we cannot decide on our own, you know. So it's not something just on a whim that we decide, oh, we're going to do divination for this, we're going to do divination whether we should go for coffee. You know, we don't do things like that. All right, so it's got to be something of consequence. All right, so I will not go into all sorts of divinations today. Firstly, there's no time, and I'm not well versed in all that. Today, I'm going to specifically focus on Mo, on Dorje Shugden's Mo. Mo is Tibetan word for dice divination, and I happen to have here a replica. This is not the real thing. This is a replica. This is a gift from Rinpoche as a blessing of a divination dice, of a Dorje Shugden divination dice. All right, this is it. So for Mo, dice divination in Tibetan tradition, there are many traditions. There are many, depending on the deity that you consult, depending on the Buddha that you consult. So Rinpoche said that there are, in our tradition, there are three very famous ones. One is Dorje Shugden, another one is Manjushri. Manjushri has a divination as well. And there is a Pendant Lamo. Pendant Lamo is a protectress, a fierce, ferocious female protectress of the Dalai Lama, and also very related to Tsem Rinpoche. You read in his biography. Okay, so these three deities are very famous for divinations. That's what Rinpoche said. Okay. So good evening to more people who have logged on. I can see Esther, I can see Juliana, Huyin Nguyen. I hope you understand English. I remember you visited us. Li Feng, Jillian Lin. Welcome to Once Upon a Time with Rinpoche, with me, Pastor David, and we'll be talking about Dorje Shugden's dice divination. Okay, this one, dice divination. So I will talk a little bit of my experience with Rinpoche and how he did his, how I help Rinpoche in his, because Rinpoche had to do a lot of divination for people on very, very critical, important decisions. All right, during the earlier days of Kechara, I witnessed it many, many times, so I'm able to relate. And then also a little bit about the information that Rinpoche has published on his blog on the requirements of the divination, the lineage of the divination, and all sorts of other information. All right, if you have any questions, do let me know. All right, don't ask me for divination. I'm not qualified to do any divination. I can talk about it. I cannot do divination. Okay, although I have a dice here from Rinpoche, but it's a gift. It's a blessing. All right, I cannot do divination. Thank you very much. In case any of you have the idea that I cannot. All right, this is a disclaimer. I cannot do divination, but I can talk about it. So if you want to do divination, you need to consult a qualified Lama to do that. All right. All right, dice divination. I don't even know where should I begin. When I first saw, long time, many years ago, Rinpoche, when I first saw Rinpoche performed a divination, I didn't know it was a divination. I just noticed that it was some sort of ritual. And I did not ask. And Rinpoche was not on the, that time he didn't really like to explain about divination. He didn't want to show it off. But there were times where he needed to do it urgently, so he had to do it. So, and then I was next to Rinpoche, and Rinpoche asked me to assist. And but he didn't explain so much. It's later I learned from other senior students like Pastor Cha and all that about what it was and how it really works. All right, so what I witnessed of Rinpoche was when Rinpoche wanted to do divination, we have to bring out his divination box. This is not Rinpoche's divination box, but this is an example of it. All right, so Rinpoche's box is very different. This is a very pleasant box to hold because circular. Rinpoche's one was a little bit, I can't even describe the shape. It's more squarish lah. It's hexagonal, yeah. So it's like a hexagonal. So we had to bring it out, and Rinpoche would have to, I have to light a stick of incense, and then hold it next to Rinpoche, and Rinpoche would offer the incense to the dice. Okay, purify it. And then Rinpoche will do an initial divination. I have no idea what it is, but I think it's a request of some sort. According to the article that Rinpoche wrote about the divination, right? What can be done is one can ask first if the decision would lead to a good or bad outcome. So it's like an initial question. So each question, Rinpoche would throw, what he would do is he would throw it, put it in his forehead, and then throw it into the box. Okay, the box have to be open, obviously. And Rinpoche's box is similar to this in a sense that it's ornate on the outside. Inside, it's red color. It has felt. The requirement has to be red inside, but what Rinpoche did with his boxes was that he put felt. Felt is velvet. What it is it helps when the dice lands. It helps muffle the sound so it's not so loud, and it cushions it. It doesn't make it so it doesn't move so much, so it doesn't bounce so much. So it has that effect. And there's an image here of Lama Tsongkhapa. I think Rinpoche's was DS. I can't remember. Rinpoche have a few divination boxes though. The one I saw, I remember, was Lama Tsongkhapa. It was a cutout of Lama Tsongkhapa pasted here. Yeah. So that was Rinpoche's divination box. So I don't have the original. I have no access to it, so I can't show you the original. But this is what was given to me as a gift, as a blessing. So I can show you this. So it gives you an idea. Okay. So what happens is when Rinpoche throws, he's asking a question. Most of the time, Rinpoche will not say it out aloud, the question. He would formulate it in his mind, but by tradition, he had to put it in his forehead. In the text, it says you have to recite the mantra 7 times and ask the question in your head and throw it. And there are 3 throws for immediate, long-term, and final outcome. Okay, first throw is immediate, long-term, and final outcome. Okay, so why 3 is because you are consulting Dorje Shugden, you're consulting an enlightened being. So the enlightened being's clairvoyance is very far-reaching. So the ability of Dorje Shugden to see into the future is very far ahead. So he's able to give you an answer based on timeline. Because a lot of things immediately may seem beneficial and immediate. Once you perform, let's say you decide to move into a place, maybe change jobs. Okay, change job X into change. You decide to take up job X. All right, so immediately it's good. Then long term, middling. Then final outcome, very bad. So then what happens is then you know already whether it's a good thing or not. Sometimes at the beginning, some decisions made at the beginning is bad, middling is okay, final outcome is good. So it depends how you want to look at it. And so that's why it's more of the ability of the diviner, which is the Lama, to explain to you, the person asking for the divination, what is good for why is it good? Why is it like that? Why is it good bad in the beginning, not good at the end? So Rinpoche will explain. Rinpoche is really, because Rinpoche has done a lot of divinations, he's really, really good. So obviously a lot of divinations are personal, So I have no idea of the content, but I already know roughly the structure because I've seen it personally. Some divinations are not so private. I've heard So Rinpoche had phrased it beginning, middle, and end. All right. Okay, let me see if you have anything to say besides. Yes, thank you very much. The link of the article that I'm talking about is on the thread now, or rather in the messages. Do look. Oh, very good question, Mr. Lam. What are the factors that influence the accuracy of a divination? Okay, there's quite a lot of factors. Okay, let's go one at a time. One factor is the person doing the divination. One factor. So because when you read the article, I read the article. So one of the factor is because when you're doing dice divination, with Dorje Shugden's dice divination, it's always very accurate, but it depends on a few factors. One is the diviner himself. So if the diviner himself, let's say, is an ordinary person, not a lama, not an attained lama, someone who is doing the divination. So obviously samaya is very important. So the samaya of the person to the deity, the samaya in this case is to the deity, must be clean. Then the divination will be, and also following the prerequisites. There are certain prerequisites that needs to be followed in a sense that you need to go through a certain training. The training is actually retreats, receiving initiation and retreats. The purpose of the retreats and the initiation is not Rinpoche. I remember when Rinpoche spoke about it, he put a lot of emphasis to say it's not to do divination. That's not the purpose. The purpose of the retreats and the initiation is to become enlightened. A side benefit is you can do divination. All right, so there's three that was Rinpoche had mentioned. Number one is Lama Tsongkhapa. So Lama Tsongkhapa, what happens is you have to receive the initiation of specifically mentioned as Jetsetsinma, which is the long life. It's translated as long life Lama Tsongkhapa, the one holding the long life vase, and then do a retreat, 100,000, an extended retreat. The 100,000 is not just Guru Yoga and 100,000 Mikchema. It's combined with Lama Chopa, so it's very long, it's extended. So you have to complete 100,000. No fire pujas is needed at the end. All right. Then the second one is receiving initiation of Yamataka. All right. Then you do the retreat. You need to complete 400,000 of the main mantra. There are 4 mantras. Yamataka has 4 mantras. 400,000 of the main mantra, and then subsequent, I think is 10,000. Oh, sheesh, I forgot the numbers. I'm really bad with numbers. Let me see. Prerequisites, Yamataka. 400,000, 40,000, 10%, 40,000 of the subsequent 3 mantras. So there are 4 mantras. So 400,000, 40,000, 40,000, 40,000, you finish. Then, and also when you do the retreat, you'll be following a sadhana. So it will be the long extended Yamataka sadhana, not the short one. And then, but this is a higher tantric initiation, so and practice. So also when you finish the retreat, you need to do a fire puja to complete it, a pacifying fire puja. Then finally, after you finish Yamataka, then you receive your Sokte, which is a life entrustment of Dorje Shugden. Life entrustment is a sort of an initiation. It's sort of like you do not need life entrustment to practice Dorje Shugden. That's true. You can practice, like all of us are practicing right now in Kechara, but for the divination, it's required. So what happens is, so you had Yamataka, so you can receive Dorje Shugden. So you receive Dorje Shugden, and then you do a retreat, a 1 million mantra retreat of Dorje Shugden's main mantra, and then the subsidiary mantra, which is you need to finish 100,000. All right. Then at the end, you finish it with the retreats with a fire puja. Okay, after all that, then you need to go to a lama to ask for permission. Okay, so the lama will give his permission and blessed. And of course, in the process, he will bless your dice. Of course, when you need to get this done, you need to have a dice, you need to have the equipment. So you need a box. The box has to be ornate. According to tradition, it has to be ornate on the outside. Some other divination methods, you don't need to be ornate. For example, I'll give you an example. This one I know for a fact because Rinpoche described it. Rinpoche spoke of a lama called by the name of Genima. He's very clairvoyant and he does divination. But his divination is interesting because he doesn't do it in an ornate box. He does it in a plastic Amul cheese box. Amul is a brand in India and it's a cheese box. So he does his dice divination in the box. So based on that fact, I don't know what divination he does, but based on that fact, I know it's not Dorje Shugden. Okay? So Dorje Shugden's one, it has to be on it as an offering. It's not so much as to show off, wow, divination, I can do divination, so shiny. It's not for that reason. All right, it's not. So it's actually an offering to the deity. Why do you need to make offerings in that sense? To collect the merit, especially for a person who is who needs to do divination and giving permission by the lama to do divination, and who is not attained like you and me. In the event like any of you gets permission from from Rinpoche in the future to do divination, then you need to collect merit. All right. So another factor, okay, back to your question, right? Another factor of what makes it accurate is, from the lama, besides the lama and the requirements are met, next thing is the person asking, the samaya. The person asking may have a samaya of the deity with Dorje Shugden, meaning he or she could have asked questions in the past or have some kind of connection with the deity through practice or non-practice or broken commitments. So whatever connection they have with the deity, if the samaya is not clean, meaning they have broken their commitment to the protector and they ask divination, it will severely impact the outcome of the divination. All right. Sometimes, the dice cannot, react by saying, "Oh, I don't want to answer your question." Well, if it's an oracle, and if the person comes up with bad samaya, right? Sometimes the oracle will not want to answer. There are cases where the protector will scold the person asking, said, "You already made your decision. You will not listen. You have not listened to my previous instructions. So there's no point in you asking." Dorje is that direct, and he leaves. He doesn't even accept the offerings. There are cases like that. So obviously the dice will not start jumping out and saying all these things. But the answer will be erratic and probably not come out well. All right. The Yamataka Initiation this is from Marcus. Yamataka Initiation is interesting as one of the prerequisites to be able to do Dorje Shugden's dice divination. Yes, even it's actually not just to do dice divination. Yamataka is actually the prerequisite to receive Dorje Shugden in life entrustment initiation, Sokte. All right, it's more of that than this. So it becomes part of it. And obviously, the retreats are meant to purify karma, clear the psychic channels, purify obscurations, clear obstacles to do divination as a side benefit. More importantly is to achieve attainments. All right. Yes, thank you, Sharon. You've posted that Lama, Jolenpa, Genima. Yep. And also, Rinpoche did say that when you do dice divination, it'll be the answer will come from two sources. One is the energy of the deity, which is Dorje Shugden. Another one, if it's the Lama, it can come from the Lama himself. The Lama has to be attained. You need to have clairvoyance to have that kind of outcome. That's why Rinpoche said sometimes, on many occasions, many Lamas, out of humility, would perform divination in order to hide their clairvoyance. So why they want to do that? Because it's more humble, because it shows that they don't have attainments, don't have clairvoyance. But actually they don't need to do divination. They already can see with their mind's eye the outcome of something. So Tsem Rinpoche is one Lama who is like that. Rinpoche on many occasions did divinations, true, and for certain students who have a lot of faith in Rinpoche, Rinpoche does not need to do divination. Rinpoche did not do divination. I've witnessed this before. Rinpoche actually told them directly what he sees in his mind's eye and what it means. He will usually, Rinpoche's clairvoyance in that sense will be an image in his mind's eye, and then he will tell, oh, this is what I see, and this is the meaning. So you just follow. Then he will give advice based on that, on what he sees. On very, very few occasions, but most occasions, because Rinpoche does not want to show off, so he will do divination to show. All right, but he's already on a personal basis. He told some students and myself, I was present, that actually he already knew the outcome of the divination. He didn't have to do it, but because the student would believe the divination more than believe him, so he would have to do the divination to help that student. All right. Sometimes it comes to a point where he have to show the dice itself. Okay. If you're wondering what's on the dice, it's actually Tibetan letters. There are 6 letters here. It's a 6-sided dice. Okay, so it's a cube dice. So a cube will have 6 sides. Okay, I'll read to you the letters. Cha, Za, Da, Ka, Ga, and Pa. Okay? So each of them will have a different meaning, and you have to look at the divination manual to see, according to the category you're asking, and the letter itself, what is the outcome? What's the meaning of based on your category of what you ask? Okay, this is Feng Hui. Hi, I saw you earlier in the other live stream. You're asking, speaking of the oracle, has he made use of the house Kechara built for him? I just came across the video a few days ago. I know it's a bit of a side question. Made use. He does come back to stay when he's not traveling. He will come. All right. Anything else to ask me about, more importantly about the topic, if you want, all right, or any Dharma topic, all right. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so okay. What else do we? Okay, Rinpoche himself said that for Dorje Shugden divination, there's something I need to explain first about the lineage itself. All right, there are 3 main lineages. Okay, the 3 lineage of divinations stem from 2 lamas and Dorje Shugden himself. Okay, one of them is Dagom Rinpoche. It's a very hard name to pronounce because it's spelled Dagom, but Rinpoche's pronunciation is Tragom. So I guess it's a Tibetan sound of D-R-C-O-M. So it's Dago Rinpoche, one of Rinpoche's his own teachers. He has a lineage of Dorje Shugden or divination. Another one is Gyara Tupu, Gyara Rinpoche. And the third one is from Dorje Shugden himself. And that is the one that Rinpoche has received. And that Rinpoche tells the story in the article. If you click on it, you can read about it. In which what he did was I remember Rinpoche telling it as well. He said that when he's very fascinated with the oracle, so whenever there was a trance, they will blow the long horns ahead of time. So Rinpoche would know, oh, there's going to be a consultation with the oracle today. So he would prepare in the morning, and then when it was time, he would go over, and he likes to watch and perhaps pay obeisance to Dorje directly. So what happened was on one occasion when the long horns were blown, and then Rinpoche went over, he was a bit late. The doors were closed. Because during a trance, they always close the doors. So Rinpoche was still curious. He was young. He was curious. So he stood over the window and watched. And it turned out to be the oracle was giving a transmission based on a request of a Western monk. Jampa Pelge, some Western monk, requested Dorje Shugden directly through the oracle to compose a divination text his divination text. So Rinpoche stood over and listened to the whole thing. And Rinpoche realized it was a transmission, so he did the necessary. When you receive a transmission, what is a transmission? Okay, let me explain what's a transmission. Transmission or lung is a transmission in a sense that the Lama who composed a text or a mantra. A mantra, of course, not by a Lama, it stems all the way to the Buddha. So what happens is it will descend down. Okay, so when a person receives the transmission, passes it down, so there will be a transmission. All right, so there's transmissions can come in the form of texts, like Dharma texts, like the Lamrim. There is a transmission of the Lamrim, oral transmission. Lung is the full thing is called an oral transmission. So during a transmission, what happens is there is certain protocol you need to do in order to receive it. One of them is you need to kneel down in a certain way and offer a mandala. Make a request and offer a mandala. So that's what Tsem Rinpoche did. When he realized it was transmission, he did that in order to receive the transmission. All right? Is to collect the merits necessary to receive the transmission. It's a thanksgiving. All right? And so what happens is Rinpoche received the transmission. It was interesting because it was from Dorje Shugden himself. And later, when Rinpoche realized he had to go to Malaysia to teach, he realized he would need to do divination. There's a sense of dread from Rinpoche himself. He was reluctant. He was a young Lama, very, very young. So he was afraid of issues and problems. He was all sorts of things were going through his mind. So he realized he needed to do divination. So he actually went up to Dorje Shugden himself in the oracle to ask permission. And also he went to his Lama, Dagom Rinpoche, to ask for permission. So he had permission from Dagom Rinpoche and Dorje Shugden himself to do divination. And of course, he didn't say in the article, but when they give permission, they would bless the what do you call this? The dice as well. Okay, I have a few questions here. Let me see. Okay, this is from Sihananto. May I know where is Rinpoche's original dice now? Keep as relic in Kechara, or you return it to Ganden Monastery? Oh, no, of course not return to the monastery. It is kept in his ladrang. Everything that Rinpoche used, his mala, the most precious one would be Rinpoche's ritual instruments, his mala, his dice, divination dice is all in the Ladrang. Okay, so it's kept as if Rinpoche is still living there. Okay, no worries. And Sunreef Solar, I'm new to Dharma. How do I know which bodhisattva or mantra I should practice? Do I need a divination to know that? You do not need to do a divination. Tsem Rinpoche has given recommendation. Okay, since you're very new. Okay, anyway, let's follow what Rinpoche has said. In general, Rinpoche had recommended people to practice Dorje Shugden in conjunction with Lama Tsongkhapa, the guru. The Lama Tsongkhapa will represent the Buddha and your guru together, and the Dharma protector, your guardian angel, will be, so to speak, lah. Dharma protector is something like your guardian angel to help you overcome your problems, issues. Will be Dorje Shugden. This is a recommendation from Tsem Rinpoche. Do research. I won't be able to talk so much now about it, but you can research. Or you can contact any of the Kechara pastors to ask more if you have more questions regarding this. All right? Yeah, so Rinpoche received the transmission. He requested permission, and he even went to a Lama who is very famous for his divination in the monastery. Rinpoche comes from Ganden Shatse Monastery, and there was a Lama there by Geshe Dayang Oser, who is famous during Rinpoche's time for doing divinations that are very, very accurate. So a lot of important dignitaries, monk officials, and people from everywhere would seek him out for his divination. So Rinpoche actually asked him as well to do divination, whether Rinpoche can do a divination. Can you imagine that? He asked a divination master to do a divination, to request whether it's the divination result comes out positive or negative about him doing divination. All right, so obviously the divination came out positive. Rinpoche can do divination, and in addition to that, the Lama's divination came out that Penan Lamo is assisting Rinpoche. This is interesting. All right, so that was what Rinpoche did in order to do Dorje Shugden's divination. And there are cases where Rinpoche's divination came out exactly the same as other lamas who do divination. So it's very accurate. Also, on top of that, Dorje Shugden's divination has been a reputation, a very good reputation all around, in a sense that it's very, very accurate. Okay, the chances of its accuracy is much higher than other forms of divination. Why? It's because of the nature of Dorje Shugden. Because he's a Dharma protector, and because he's a new Dharma protector. So he's highly, provided, of course, the person doing the divination has completed the prerequisites. Okay, but one of the things that's unspoken is, of course, the person doing the divination, the diviner, must have samaya the guru. Besides the protector, is also the guru. All right. Someone said something in Chinese, but I can't read it. Probably something good, I hope. Anyway, yeah. So for divinations, Rinpoche has had in the past done a lot of divinations for students, for people in the Dharma, for people who is not in the Dharma, in order to help. One of the hallmarks, one of the requirements as well that Rinpoche did say is that when doing Dorje Shugden divination, you're not allowed to receive any benefit. So you cannot ask, and cannot have the intention to receive benefit. You cannot receive monetary benefit, meaning you cannot charge your divination for your divination. You cannot say, oh, it's $50 per divination. You can't do that. If you do that, that will impact your accuracy of the divination. All right. Yep. So yeah. One of the things that's important in divination is, Rinpoche said in the past, is actually because the divination that we're doing is contacting a Buddha. So we are basically consulting a enlightened being. Because we're not enlightened. Normally, for high lamas who are attained, they can have visions of Buddhas and consult them directly, speak to the Buddha directly, to get divination, to ask, questions. So for us, for a normal person, they cannot. So what happens is the lamas are very compassionate. This tradition started in order to make it available for people to consult enlightened beings. Specifically, in this case, is Dorje Shugden, for our daily issues, not so much as normal issues. More importantly, is issues of consequence, like I mentioned earlier. So it's usually the divination questions that comes out is usually about that's important now, all right? It's about health, like which doctors, like what treatment to go for, which hospitals to take, like for whether a major decision in one's life, important issues in business, important issues in relationship. So, but generally, Rinpoche, to be honest, Rinpoche does not like to do divination. I've examined it, and I was thinking about it. Rinpoche himself didn't exactly say why, but he feels reluctant to do divination. It seemed to be because people are more interested in divination than in the Dharma. That's how Rinpoche conveyed it. So Rinpoche, over time, tried to lessen the divination requests, in a sense, tried to dissuade people from doing divination and encourage people to practice the Dharma. And Rinpoche's logic is this. Actually, the answers to all our divination is in the Dharma. You don't need to do divination. If you understand karma, you understand Lamrim, you can understand the outcome of your actions already, your important actions in your life. So you don't really need to do divination. More importantly is you need to learn the Dharma, study the Dharma, contemplate, have realizations, so it change the outcome of your life, your karma, and do practices to purify karma, increase one's merit, and change your destiny, your future lives. So divination cannot do that. It can tell you the outcome, but it cannot alter your karma. Okay, that's the thing. You cannot change your karma by doing a divination. You can know, it helps solve. I mean, it is a tradition that's important because it helps save a lot of time for a lot of people. But this is for people who don't know very much Dharma. If you know Dharma enough, you realize this is not important. Dharma is more important. So that's why Rinpoche has over time realized this in people, because when it's made available to people, people will focus, divination, divination. And people don't practice the Dharma. They just want a divination to help them in their important problems. There are many cases it's valid. Of course, I'm not saying all cases are invalid. Rinpoche did divination until the end, but he dissuaded as much as possible. And Rinpoche said that a lot of the questions we ask, we already can work it out on our own, actually. If you use logic, reasoning, faith in your Dharma protector, faith in Dharma, have a good heart, good intentions, you should be all right. All right, you don't really need divination to decide, what's going to happen. All right. So that's why Rinpoche said that. That's why Rinpoche wasn't really into promoting divination, but it's something that he has to do for people. All right. And according to Rinpoche, when he asked permission from Dagon Rinpoche gave him a piece of advice about divination, a dharmic advice, in a sense that when you pick up the divination dice, have a good motivation to relieve this. This is to help relieve the suffering of people, the temporary suffering, and the ultimate suffering. It doesn't matter whether it's temporary or ultimate. So that was a very powerful advice that Rinpoche remembers, and he's putting there. All right. Okay, I've got some questions from Pastor Neral. Pastor David, if the divination comes out not good, is there anything that we can do to help the situation? Oh, yeah. You can ask Dorje Shugden that. And actually, Rinpoche would always do that. When the divination comes out bad, Rinpoche will immediately think of a question in response to help overcome it. Usually what comes back is usually pujas. Sometimes it usually involves certain decisions to alleviate, overcome a problem. And Rinpoche, because Rinpoche is very seasoned in his divination, so he knows how to ask the right questions to gain an answer of what to do to overcome the bad outcome. All right. And of course, I mean, we can ask Dorje Shugden, but ultimately it will be pujas lah. The thing about divination is this, that another thing I wanted to mention earlier, why Rinpoche is reluctant is actually this, is that when a divination is done, and then a prescription is given, like let's say you have to do pujas, or let's say it's not pujas, it's a certain practice, a certain retreats you need to do, but the person does not do the retreat. There's many cases because sometimes it involves money, and Rinpoche is very, very skillful because the prescription from the divination will come according to the capability of the person. So if the person doesn't have a lot of money, obviously sponsorship of pujas will not be possible. So Rinpoche would alter it, or the divination outcome will come out in a sense that it will be a certain practice to do, a certain retreat to do, stuff like that. Certain Dharma work to do, certain Dharma responsibility to do in order to accumulate the merit, purify the karma. So, but what happens is many people do not fulfill what they're supposed to do. So, they will get the bad outcome anyway, because they are unable to do what is necessary to overcome. Dorje Shugden on the divination cannot purify your karma, overcome your obstacle. It comes from your own practice. It comes from you, your own purification. All right. So Rinpoche is actually a little dissuaded by many people who ask for divination but do not follow the outcome. So that's why Rinpoche would rather people not do that, because that will impact our practice. Because you're talking of the deity we pray to on a daily basis for our protection, you see, for a lot of people who ask the divination. So that's one of the things that dissuades Rinpoche from doing divination, because many people who ask for divination do not follow what was required. All right? Okay. This is another thing from another question. This is from Sharon. What would happen if the person asking for donation doesn't follow the advice given in the divination? Perhaps the person just follows whatever is convenient. Oh, that's exactly what I just said. So what happens will be this. Many things can happen. They can, usually whatever that is bad, that's predicted in the divination will come through. Because they were not able to purify the karma, the cause. They were not able to contact Dorje Shugden to overcome the. Of course, since you do divination, the Dorje Shugden is aware, that you are going through this issue. But you see, he can't just remove your obstacle. He needs your helping hand. You need to do your part, your end of the bargain, you see. So you need to do what is necessary, which is you need to do the pujas, which is whatever it is, like it could be pujas, it could be practice, it could be, sometimes it's also a responsibility in the Dharma, volunteer work, stuff like that. And an advice in order to overcome that bad outcome. So this is what happens now. All right. So it will be dependent on, if it's not the pujas, it's not the divination, it will be dependent on our practice. The daily sadhana that we do, the measly little 10 minute sadhana. If you do sadhana at all in a sense. So it's important that usually, so that's why we're in Kechara in the past, when people ask for divination, we have to prep them. We have to make sure that they are prepared to do what is necessary and prepare them to ask even the questions that has to be framed in a certain way. It cannot be open-ended questions, will I be okay? You cannot have a divination like this. Will I be okay? Okay in what sense? will I be good? It has to be something more specific. It has to be something that will have, and perhaps if you have already a few answers in mind to put in, kind of like a choice, and then so divinations can be done for each choices, each possible decision for a particular issue that you have. And also, most importantly is to, when the divination results come out, is to follow up on that. All right. So that's very important because that will impact your samaya of the deity. Samaya means your spiritual bond with the deity. All right. So, any other question? From the article itself, let me see if I missed out anything. Divination, basically, there's many types of divination. So dice divination is just one of them. And it remains one of Rinpoche's. And Rinpoche can do a few types of divination besides dice. All right, so this is just happens to be the main one because it's very visible. And I have seen on many occasions Rinpoche throw a dice. It lands like 4, 5, 6 times, right? He's asking one single question. It always ends up with the same side. If it's a za, it's always a za. Okay, and I saw it. And Rinpoche he's not timing the dice, so it lands exactly the same. He's throwing it at random. And when it lands, I've seen there's one time I saw it. It lands like that, and then it bounces up for some reason, in an invisible force, pushes it up and turns it around. I've seen it. And I can tell that something supernatural is at work. It's obviously Dorje Shugden, but from what I can see. All right. And so Dorje Shugden's divination is highly, highly accurate. And so I kind of almost repeating myself already. So if you guys have any questions, you do let me know. Right. So yeah. When I first saw it, I was very, very intrigued. And I didn't know what it was initially, as I said earlier. But eventually, I came to learn about it. And I was assisting Rinpoche on many, many occasions. Generally, for most people, Rinpoche would do divination on their request. Sometimes Rinpoche would do it in order to show a particular outcome to the person. He would do a divination. And the outcome can change, sometimes immediately, based on the person asking it. Sometimes when they shift their mind, according to let's say a certain outcome about something, when they shift their mind, the divination will also follow according. Because you must understand, whatever outcome that comes depends on karma. And that karma comes about based on our mind, based on our intentions, based on our thoughts, what direction our thoughts are leaning towards. All right. So it's important. That's why it's important that ultimately it's actions. Ultimately, it's our practice to change our mind and change our actions based according to our practice. So if we have practiced the Dharma over time and there's no change in us, what kind of change we're talking about? Change in the sense of our attitude, change in the sense of how our negative traits, for example, our anger, for example, our jealousy, for example, our all our negative emotions lah, our attachment lah, our vengefulness. Some of us are very vengeful. We always, when someone irritates us, we want to strike back. When someone says something we don't like to hear, we want to take, take revenge in a different way. Or some people who are very, manipulative. Automatically, when you see someone, what comes to mind is what can the person do for me, for example. So when we practice the Dharma enough, we can change our mind, we can change our attitude, and our destiny, our outcome will be different as well. How does it become different? Because karma ripens based on our mind, our state of mind, based on our intentions. If we cultivate a different virtuous intention, more virtuous karma will ripen. If we cultivate a negative state of mind, anger, jealousy, what do you expect will come out? Because karma is attracted to karma. So even attachment, Rinpoche, I'm saying this because it's something Rinpoche told me before. When we have a lot of attachments and we don't keep our attachments in check, we can expect obstacles to arise because we have attachment. And attachment is not something inherently bad. It doesn't look like it's bad. It's like attachments means, when we like something, we really, really like it. When we don't have it, we are not happy. That's an attachment. And how unhappy we are about something, good or bad, whatever it may be, is a reflection of our attachment. So our karma can arise even based on that mental state of mind. All right. Okay, I have some comments. This is from Mr. Lam. In the event that the divination result shows that the person asking will have an untimely death, what would the Lama do? Oh, very good question. I have no idea. I'm not a Lama. Sorry, that was just a joke. Okay, usually when a person will have a obstacle to one's life, all right. So what can the Lama do? The Lama can encourage the person to collect merit. Okay, can encourage the person to do long life practices. If the obstacle is very big, meaning when it is very big, it's quite difficult to avoid. And sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's obstacle. It's not life force. Okay, there's a difference. There's life force and obstacle. Obstacle can come and we get like illness, an accident. That's an obstacle. Life force is our life. When it comes to an end, no matter what you do, no matter how healthy you are you're like a marathon runner. You go to the gym 14 times a day, 40 times a week. Or you're on the pink of health. You go for health check. Everything is perfect. Then you come to puja and you fall dead. You just pass away suddenly. Sudden heart attack. So that's why that happens is because the life force of the person is depleted. What is a life force? It's a karma. It's a lifespan of a person. So that's why when we do long life practices, what happens is you cannot extend beyond your life force. Okay, so we all can. That's why you cannot when we do a lot of long life practices, liberate thousands of birds and all that. You don't think you will live for 1,000 years? You will not, because there's a limit to how much we can extend our life. that is dependent on our life force. All right. So I just want to clarify that, and because all of us will have to pass eventually. No matter what practices you do, there's no practices right now in existence except in the movies where you can live forever. There's no such thing. There's no practice, whether in science, in medicine, or in the spiritual field, like in Buddhism. There are long life practices to extend our life, but it comes to a certain amount. So while we are at the pink of health, hence, we should always do the Dharma as much as we can, because this is our chance. Because when our karma hits, once it fruitions, our obstacles come, we don't have energy to do Dharma. All we can do is perhaps recite mantras. Sometimes we can't even recite because we're so ill. We cannot even recite one mantra. All right, because we are so ill. And at that time, we just have no choice to let karma take over. Or hopefully someone does pujas for us. You know? What's this about goti? Never mind. Pastor, any chance we see you grow a goti like some lamas? Laugh. Serious, does the dice have to always be thrown into the box? Yes, the dice divination is usually done like this. This is it's a special box and a dice thrown in. Okay, Dorje Shugden's dice is this shape and it's only one, and this size. There's a description in the manual, in the Dorje Shugden divination manual, detailing the size, the material, which is sandalwood, and yeah, and of course the Tibetan letters here, okay, on each side, and the direction it faces also, there is a requirement. All right. Other divination methods I'm not very familiar of, but I know Manjushri divination also uses a dice like that. I'm not sure about the size, but it's Om Arapatana. The what do you call this? The syllables are different. And for Pendant Lamo, I'm not really sure of the letters, but there's 3 dice. There's one time Rinpoche asked me to, and another student of his, to go pay homage to a Lama in Nepal. I remember. And when we met this Lama had passed away already. He when we met this Lama, there was some Tibetan people ahead of us. So, he decided to meet all of us in the same time. So as we were waiting our turn, I saw the Tibetan, the older person who is a Tibetan, consulted the Lama to do a divination. So the Lama did a divination. And before he did the divination, he did a little puja, which I suspect is a Vajragini puja, but I'm not really sure because of the words he used. I heard Benza Yogini, so that sounds like Vajragini. That's one. And then when he did the divination, he opened his box. I can't remember his box. Nothing unusual about it. And then, but he threw the dice. It was 3 dice, 3 small dice. So I was like looking at it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's 3 dice. So when I went back later, and I met up with Rinpoche later, and Rinpoche told me, I told Rinpoche about that divination. And Rinpoche said, oh, that's Pendant Lamo. I was like, oh, I see. That's the first time I've seen a Pendant Lamo divination being done. All right. Oh, yeah, by the way, that reminds me. The manual that's on the website, or the Dorje Shugden divination manual, is composed by Dorje Shugden, but he said in his proclamation, he said that he based his divination on Pendant Lamos. All right, so I don't know. I guess it's in the categories. In certain, there'll be some similarities. All right, that's what Dorje Shugden said in his in his manual and his divination manual. Oh, regarding the goatee, I don't think I can. This is as far as it will grow. And I'm not a lama, by the way. I'm just a pastor. Okay, anyway, let's see what's next. This is from Sihananto. What is usage of bear figurine beside Rinpoche? He jumped. What is usage of bear figurine beside Rinpoche's photo? Oh, you mean this one? This one is a gift from Rinpoche. Actually, on my earlier season, I put it here like kind of a remembrance of Rinpoche because this is given by Rinpoche to me, and it has a very cute little picture here. It's a Chinese epigram, I think. I can't remember what this is called. And then in the middle is Dharma. So Rinpoche said that Dharma is in the heart of the bear. So he said that I have the same thing too. So basically Rinpoche is telling me to always remember that, to always have Dharma in my heart. All right. So I thought it was cute, and it's nice. So it reminds me of Rinpoche because Rinpoche has given me a lot of gifts. So I always cherish all the gifts that Rinpoche has given me. So I put it here because I'm talking about Rinpoche. So it's to evoke memories of Rinpoche, and it's something different. It's cute. Marcus says, oh yeah, now that you have mentioned Vajrayogini, how come Tibetans cannot say Vajra? Just curious. Also saw it on a blog post by Tsem Rinpoche who said the same thing as well. How come they cannot pronounce? It's just the language. It's a language thing. It's like Chinese can't pronounce certain letters properly. Same thing. The Tibetans can't pronounce certain Sanskrit words properly, like Vajra. So they pronounce it in an approximation of the sound. Benza, Braja, Bajra, Benza. I don't know, does this sound similar? So when it comes to mantras, it's important to follow the source, which is descends from the Tibetan masters, and a lot of them have altered the pronunciation to Benza based on the ability to pronounce it. So the transmission comes down according to that sound we follow in mantra, but actually it's Vajra. All right. Pakwa. All right. Thank you, James. Yeah, Pakwa is a hexagram. I think that's what the word I was looking for, a hexagram. Yeah. Okay, anyway. So I've kind of pretty much covered what I have in mind about Dorje divination. I'm not going to do a divination, obviously. I'm just looking at it. And yeah. So thank you very much. Any other last questions before we end? So ultimately, it's a method for lamas and practitioners, advanced practitioners, to help people. It is an extension of one's compassion to help people alleviate their suffering. So that's how divination is to be used, to be used in order to extend assistance to sentient beings, to people, basically. All right. And there are many divinations, and whatever divination is used would be the same in Buddhism. The intention would be the same. It's never to be used commercially. It's never to be used to gain fame, to gain monetary or material benefit. All right, that would be counter to the essence of the Buddha's teachings. All right. So I guess that's it. So thank you very much and good night. And I'll do a little bit of dedication before we finish. All right. Chanju Sencho Rinpoche, Make Panagi Gushe, Keba Yamami Payang, Gonen Godo Power Show, Tony Tonga Rinpoche, Make Panagi Gushe, Keba Yamami Payang, Gonen Godo Power Show, Dazo Gene Sapa Gewadi, Tanandroa Gunlan Campana, Chebo Jozo Lozon Dropa, Tan paying for in a Sa She Show, Kewa Gundo Yana Lamadan, Dremi Joki Pala Long Chache, Sada Lanki on the Rachoni, Doji Changi Gopang Yuto Show, Gewadi, Yudoda, Lama Sange Juni, Joa Chiga Malupa, De Sala Gopa Show. 继续家伙送嘎巴，抽送那么白瓦啦，给上面几瓦单，都你马路上说，大当先给都送单，就我是来等你，给我老上抓把鱼，当帮人把给些，你莫带了生带来，你们公园带来些，也生打都带来票，看着所有人给路，看着所有我着说，看着所有他是说，这算拉马古色入等些，南卡群里就给巴当，老上带没中为三双给，中木色打到你给些，刚里拉为靠新港的，本人带我马路强为呢，前瑞在万单子家所以，下辈子。Badu dan gyushi hong tombing odro malupa dende dala sadu so kodan temple ochona geba soji Shugden cell. Thank you. Good night.